Hello, everyone. This is Jim Cross, and I'm here with Robin. Say hello, Robin.
Hi.
Yeah, we're here to talk about the sliding scale agreement. We get a lot of questions from church treasurers and missionaries alike wanting to know how to manage the sliding scale. So we put this short video together to help you understand it. I just want to give you a little history to begin with. Why does Village Missions have this sliding scale process? The reason basically comes down to serving as many communities in need as possible. The sliding scale was conceived to help make it possible for Village Missions to provide leadership to the smallest and poorest churches. We want to continue to go where no other organized gospel witness exists, where our help is needed the most. And we understand that some churches simply cannot afford to pay any salary and little to none of the insurance cost. That's okay, because our mission is to go wherever the church desires to reach their communities for Christ. Now, the sliding scale is a standard established by Village Missions that applies to all churches that have entered the mission since 2005. The standard brings churches into the mission sharing less cost than they possibly would have in the past, but it brings them along, participating and sharing more of the cost as they are able. If churches that can share in more of the cost do so, it enables us in turn to serve even more churches. We've provided a worksheet that helps churches figure out how to apply the standard, to know how much they should be paying for the benefit plan and for their missionaries' salary as well. And we're going to walk through the form. Robin has worked on this form and has come up with a new version of it that is going to be very helpful to you. We'll walk through that and discuss these items as we go along, but first let's look at the agreement that is signed with each incoming church. This is from Village Missions and You, the local church. So we know that the local church agrees to provide adequate housing and utilities for the village missionary. And the church also agrees to designate 10% of the general offerings each month for village missions. This offering is to be used to bring a missionary couple to you, and also to assist in providing leadership to other rural communities. This is the genius of Village Missions, not our genius. We're talking about our founders from 70 years ago. They established this system, and it's worked so well throughout the years, because as churches are able to share more cost, as they're able to bring more people into the local church, grow the congregation, grow the offerings, they in turn have been able to help other churches. And that's the way that it's worked all along, and it has worked wonderfully for the glory of God for many, many years. So, number 3, the local church also agrees to provide for the mission's benefit package and the missionary's salary based on the following sliding scale. This is the formula that we will be going through on the form. So we start with the general offering, minus 10% of village missions, minus rent for the parsonage and or the church facility, minus a fixed operating cost, and then the remainder first is used to pay for the mission provided benefit package, and then finally salary to the missionary if there's anything left over. And of course, Village Missions is here to help backstop and provide that minimum base supplement for churches that are unable to pay their pastor. So, we're going to flip over to the worksheet and just walk through it. This is an Excel spreadsheet. It is set up on a, what do you call these things? It's a template, but it has macros in it.
Yes, it's got VBA underneath it.
That makes
Visual
it
Basic.
makes it easy to use. So the church treasurer or the missionary using this form really only has to do a few things, right?
That is correct, yeah. The only thing that you need to do, actually the first time you use it, you'll need to put the church name here and also put in the month that you're reporting for. So, along with the year, so August 2017. After that, all you need to do is enter these 3 amounts, and everything else will be calculated for you, as well as telling you what checks and what amounts you need to send those in for. Once you have entered this, your second month, when you open this form, it'll have the previous month's amounts in there. All you need to do is hit clear data. It will clear those 3 cells for you, and you enter that for the current month. So for instance, let's just show an example here. Let's say that your offerings for the month were $6,000. And let's also say that your rent is $450. I'm not the rent, sorry about that. Backspace. Your EBP invoice amount. So I'm going to go with a random amount here. 43.
Okay.
And then let's say the rent is $450. Okay. There's a little note here about what's included in the rent expenses. Do you want to go over that, Jim?
Sure. The allowable rent expenses are basically the mortgage or the rent on the parsonage, real estate taxes that you might have to pay, property insurance. The utilities could be anything that you use to heat the home. It could be electric, gas, propane, firewood. It's the water bill, the trash bill, any local telephone, landline, and internet, if it's separate from the church. I do want to mention that I know we've got people that have all sorts of different situations when it comes to telephone and internet. Generally, we will not pay for cable or satellite. Those should not be included in the housing allowance. However, if cable or satellite is how you get your internet, those expenses would be allowed. However, you're going to have to look at your bill, and you're going to have to try and separate the cost of the basic internet connection from any other premium services that you might be purchasing. So we're not going to be paying for your NFL package, and we're not going to be paying for your pay-per-view, MMA fights or
Home Shopping Network.
Oh yeah, no Home Shopping Network, right? Any of that. Also, I want to mention cell phones. Now, some people have completely cut the cord, and they're just on their cell phones, and that's great if it works for you. Your cell phone can now be included as a housing allowance if you do not have a landline. This would be the missionary's cell phone only, not the spouse's, not the family plan. So it might take a little bit of work to break out the cost of that. And of course, we are available if you have questions on how to sort that out. But we're living in a great world right now with all the technology where you can cut the cord and you can make it really easy to stay connected all sorts of different ways.
Okay, so going on from here, just a brief statement about how the money is distributed. Jim went over that earlier, but there's just a reminder there. So I'm going to scroll down here. We entered these 3 numbers up here. That is all you need to do, is enter those 3 numbers. I'm going to show you what is populated down here. So it plugs in everything, which shows here's your general fund, and here's the amount of the tithe. So these little boxes in green are showing you what checks you'll be sending to Village Missions. Pulls the balance forward, deducts the rent. Balance forward deducts the housing allowance, or the expense allowance. Right now that's at $1,300.
Yeah, that amount of 1,300 is subject to change from time to time. That's an amount that is intended to cover all of your church operating expenses. So that's for church utilities, building maintenance, teaching supplies, anything that goes into operating the church and its ministry.
Okay, so going forward, balance forward, now we have the EBP invoice. Right here, I just want to let you know, this is not a set amount. You need to look at your invoice every month in order to determine that amount. If you are not receiving an invoice, please contact me. We prefer to send invoices out by email, but if you need to have it snail mailed to you, we can make that allowance. So if you are not receiving an invoice, please contact me so we can determine why that is. So down here, we're pulling it forward, and it's showing the amount that you need to write the check for the benefit package. If you do not have enough money from your offerings to pay anything towards the benefit package, it will show 0 there. Or if you can pay partial, it'll show you the partial amount that calculates itself out for you. Scrolling down farther, if you have money left over after you pay the benefit package, it will show you how much you can pay towards your pastor. This could be 0, anywhere from 0 to $1,800. And then down below here is if after that you still have any remaining funds, you can save that for next month for your to go towards your EBP payment or salary payment. But as a sliding scale starting out, chances are you're not going to have extra. It may be a rare occurrence. So as I said, it calculates everything out for you and shows you what you're going to need to do. Down here on the bottom portion, over here are some check marks. You will have a check mark there notifying if you need to make a check for this particular item. It's important that these 3 checks be separate. You do not have to do separate checks on the items for the EBP invoice, but for these 3 items that I'm going to go over, they do need to be separate checks. The first one is, of course, your tithe, and make that check payable to Village Missions. The second is for your EBP, or your benefit plan, and make that payable to EBP. The third one is if you are paying your pastor. Now we have 2 ways that you can do that, and I'll turn it over to Jim in just a moment. You can pay that directly to your pastor, or you can send that check to us, and then we will pay the full supplement to the missionary. Jim, you have some comments on that?
Yeah. Now, if a church is able to pay a salary consistently, you are encouraged to get set up for payroll reporting. Doing payroll for a pastor is the easiest kind of payroll that you will ever do. If the pastor is the only employee that you're paying, you don't have to do any matching and withholding of Social Security. Maybe the missionary will ask you to do a little bit of voluntary withholding for the federal income tax, but usually not. So you're only putting $1 amount on your quarterly 941, and doing the W-2 at the end of the year follows along very easily. So if you are consistently writing checks to your pastor, you really need to get on board with the payroll reporting, and we will do a future video discussing tax reporting obligations in more detail. On the other hand, if you're only able to pay a salary sporadically or in small amounts, you're welcome to send it in here. We'll credit that amount against our salary supplement expense. We'll record it as a payment from the church just as if you paid it directly. Several churches do send it into the mission, and it's a great way for you to relinquish your obligation to do tax reporting if you don't wish to take that on at this time. We realize that a lot of treasurers are volunteers. We understand that you are on a steep learning curve when it comes to tax reporting obligations. So if it isn't something that you have to be involved with, we are happy for you to use the missions tax reporting system, and then you can just relinquish that completely.
Okay, so in regards to whether if you're sending the check into Village Missions, down here below I have a checkbox for you to check whether you're including a check to us or not. It helps us determine where that check went if for some reason it's not in the envelope. So for instance, if you're sending it to Village Missions, you're going to click this box. If you're paying it straight to your pastor and not sending to us, you're going to click not included. So that is all you need to do. Fill in those 3 items at the top right here, and then it's always a good idea to go through and look at this and see what you're doing, and then come to the bottom and it'll tell you what checks you need to fill out. Now we have here a print form button, and this form has been created to conveniently provide you a form that you can print out and mail with your checks so that we know exactly where those particular checks are going. It's also nice because you can put the checks in there and fold the form up around it, and then you can't see it through the envelope. So for security purposes, it's convenient. This button will print directly to your default printer. So you click the button and it'll print out. You don't have to set any print area or anything like that. So if you're going to be printing to something other than your default printer, you may want to temporarily change your default printer. If you're one of those people who somebody set everything up for you and you don't really know, trust me, just click the button. Down here, the other thing I want to mention is when Jim was talking about getting set up for the payroll, if you want to do that, or if you need to do that for your pastor, always keep in mind, I know it sounds intimidating, but we're always here to answer any questions and to help you through that. That's really what we're here for, is to help you be successful. So don't be intimidated by that prospect. When you are all done with this and you've printed this out, and I might recommend too that you print out a copy of this for your board so they can take a look at where the money is going. Sometimes that helps the people on the board understand the status of their church a little bit better. When you're done with this, you just click close form. I'm not going to do that right now, but it will save and close this for you. And that's all you need to do. There is a PDF form available if you do not have a computer, or for some other reason you can't use this, but that one you're going to have to do the math yourself. I would highly recommend finding a way to use this form. And that's all I have on that.
Okay. Well, good. Well, that's sliding scale. That's easy. That's sliding scale in a nutshell. And I know that you may have questions, but you're always welcome to give us a call here at the office. The toll-free number is 800-617-9905. And
yeah, you know better than me.
Yeah, you'll find me at extension 120, and you'll find Robin at extension
118.
118, right? 118. And we are here. We're available for your questions. So just give us a holler, and we will help you out. All right. Well, thank you for listening, and we'll talk again soon.